Hello and welcome to another bearing removal and installation video featuring Boca bearings. Now today's engine is an engine I've had possession of for, I don't know, probably close to 3 years now, and I don't even remember when or how I got it. It might have been a donation to me. And it is kind of a work in process. It is an Super Tiger S75 engine. Now this is an engine I just happened to come across while I was looking through some parts in my closet and thought, oh, this is a good time to do a bearing removal and replacement for this engine so I can continue working on getting the other parts I need to get this engine together. So with that said, let's go to the table and take a look at this engine in a kind of a mocked up state, and then I will get it ready for the bearing removal and installation. So here is this Super Tiger S75 engine, and I'm calling it an S75 because I believe the S series of engines had the big Super Tiger S on the one side, and then over here it just says Made in Italy by Super Tiger 75. And I believe, I don't know a whole lot about Super Tiger engines. They're just not an engine brand that I've had a whole lot of experience with. And I also don't have a timeline for these engines either. But this does have the square head because they had a period of time where all of their heads were round. This has the square head, but it also has the front, or the two-piece crankcase. So it's got the detachable front housing and the square head. Now later iterations, I believe when they went to the G series, is when they had a single-piece crankcase, still retained the square head, and that's about all I know about Super Tiger engines. So this is a pretty decent example of this engine. It's been disassembled and I'm missing some parts like a gasket set. I think I have a carburetor on hand, but I'm not entirely sure if the piston ring is present. So there may be some other parts that I need to acquire, as well as prop washer and nut, which I believe I also have someplace. So this is the subject for today's bearing removal and installation. Let me go ahead and remove these couple screws out of here, and we will remove the bearings in this front housing. Okay, so here I have just a crankcase, front housing, the crankshaft with some rather strange feeling bearings in here, and we're ready to disassemble. So I've got all my standard tools that I use. I have this 3mm wrench out here to take those screws out. I don't need that. I did not oil this, and like I said, I don't recall how long I've had this thing, so I'm hoping that this is just a simple removal and installation, but I guess that is yet to be seen. So I'm going to start by just heating this front housing up and get these bearings to come out. Oh, actually, before I do that, because it's a front housing style like that, I need to set my vise up properly so I can punch this crankshaft out. That's going to have to really be lined up good for that to come out and fall through that hole, so I'm going to have to be careful with that. So let's start this again here with the heating of this. Maybe I can just leave it right here. See if that was long enough to get this thing to drop out of here. How is it contacting? Alright, I think I'm going to have to grab my glove now. Oh, okay, so it looks like we've got our bearing coming out with the crankshaft, so now it's just a matter of getting that to come out all the way. Boy, that's a tough one. The interesting thing is that the bearing is separating from the crankshaft here, so I don't know why this thing is so difficult to get out of here now. Alright, there we go. And there you have it. Wow, look at that. How does it get any better than that or any simpler? The crankshaft is rather dirty, and as is this bearing. That's just interesting that on this And there's a seal on one side of this bearing too, unless it's just the race that's really gunked up there. So we still are left with just the front bearing in here, which should be a lot simpler to get out. I don't understand. That was interesting. Oh yeah, wow. Okay, so one was super simple and the other was a little bit more challenging. So there you have it. I'm going to go and clean up this front housing just a bit and clean this crankshaft up, and then we will be ready to do a bearing installation. Okay, so here I've got crankshaft all nice and cleaned up and the front housing ready to accept some bearings. So I also have my bottle of Lightning Lube Road Power from Boca, which I always put just a pump in this jar so I can use that as my reassembly lubricant and lubricant to install my bearings. Here I've got the old bearings and I got the new bearings and all the tools necessary. So let me flip this over and say that the kit number for this Super Tiger S75 engine is an ENK-009. So let's take these bearings out of here and just do a quick compare and make sure they do look like the correct bearings, which I'm certain they are. And both of these are double shielded bearings, so I'll be removing some shields here. So let's just, oh yeah, that looks beautiful. Now a lot of times I've seen sometimes you pull a bearing out and the OD is the same, but then the ID isn't the same, because there are some that are pretty close in looks, but they're not exactly what you need here. So both of these just have the same type of shield, which is one that I can just kind of go in here and pop the front off like that on that one, and I'm just going to leave one side open, one side closed on this one. Despite what that previous bearing looked like, I'm going to take both shields off of this one as normal. Okay, so with that done, now we can start lubricating some parts up here. Get these all nice and lubed up, ready to accept some bearings. Now, as always, I install the front bearing first and then put the rear bearing on the crankshaft and use the front bearing as my centering mechanism. And this bearing just so happens to be big enough I can fit my whole finger in there. So let's get this on the crankshaft here. Look at that, what a beautiful fit that was. Okay, so now all we need to do is wipe my fingers, heat this front housing up, and install the front bearing, and then we're halfway completed. Now, since this is pretty small, I don't know how much heat this is really going to require. Let's see if that's adequate. It takes some heat, that's for sure. It's not exactly as straight as I would like it, but yeah, that definitely took some heat. Alright, front bearing in place. Let's see if we can get this rear bearing in real quick before I get burned. Wow. That was oh, boom, there you go. There's the final blow there. Okay, so there it is. And we are completed here, and now I can continue my process of restoring this engine.